Hello, my name is Natalia Safronenkova and I'm recording this project for Professor Wheeler class, Business Modeling with Spreadsheets. Since I moved to New York 7 years ago, I'm struggling with an absence of car. So I love to drive and miss everything driving as I used to do it in Russia. I miss even digging the car out of snowdrifts at winter times. But all of my friends and relatives have been constantly telling me that there is no point in having a car in Brooklyn when you live 4 blocks from a subway station. That a car will be just left at a parking slot and would be used once a week. That always sounded like truth. Also true that there are the most expensive car insurance rates in Brooklyn than anywhere in the US. Also, let's not forget the cost of maintaining and hardships of finding a parking slot or paying tickets for a wrong parking. From the other hand, one still needs once in a while to go buy some piece of furniture or to do global grocery shopping, or go out for the city, or go for a road trip with friends. I go snowboarding several times a year, travel around the country, and I need to use bus service, within most cases inconvenient and expensive. I need to take taxi 2-3 times a week. For shopping, I use sometimes Zipcar. It all carries a certain amount of expenses, which theoretically could be applied toward owning a car instead. Also, let's not forget an amount of missed opportunities to travel because of impossibility to take a bus to certain places, which is simply frustrating. Therefore, I decided to resolve all these questions at once, bringing all the data together and use Solver for making an optimal decision. If analysis will show that owning a car makes financial sense, then I should decide how and which type of car to buy. Should I buy a new car? Should I save money and buy a second-hand car? I am opting to find an answer. So at first I pulled down a table of my travel. Usually I go snowboarding to different places at winter time. I do major shopping several times a year. I try to go up to Adirondacks once a year. Go to Florida for spring break. I visit friends pretty often, and sometimes it's too late to go home by subway, so I'm taking a taxi. I like to go hiking upstate, and once a year I like to travel to Canada. Maybe if I will get a car, I will be able to do that often. I went to Google Maps and estimated how long those travels takes. This distance in miles is a round trip to make the estimations easier. I'm going to look at the cost difference by traveling using bus, Uber, Zipcar, and I'm going to look at 2 different models of cars, Honda Civic and Suzuki SX4. To be able to compare costs of owning a car with traveling by public transportation, I need to pull out a true cost to own a car. Let's not forget, and I don't count it here, that before owning a car, one have to invest money into buying a car. I'm going to look for 2 different car models, Honda Civic 2016 and Suzuki SX4 2013. Comparing prices for owning a new car and comparing prices for owning a used car, which is actually going to be cheaper. I don't know the answer yet, so I put down a table which will help me to estimate true cost of owning a car and figure out the cost per mile, which I could use in the future estimations. So to own a car once carries operational costs, which include fuel. In my case, I think it shouldn't be more than 10,000 miles a year. A cost of maintenance, cost of repairs, and driving costs, which include depreciation, taxes and fees, financing, and insurance. Once I pulled out those numbers, I was able to estimate true cost to own, which is a simple sum of different operational and driving costs for 5 years, which comes down to a total of $24,620 for 5 years for owning Honda, and to $21,841 for owning a Suzuki. For my purposes, I also counted the average cost to own a car per year. So for Honda, it's going to be $4,923, and for Suzuki, it's going to be $4,368. As we see, a real cost of owning a new car and used car is pretty much the same. I also counted a cost of owning a car per mile. For that, I divided average true cost to own to 10,000 miles I travel, and it gets to 0.49 cents per mile for Honda and 0.44 cents per mile for Suzuki. Now, bringing all these estimations together, I am able to pull out the formulas for counting my trips by different transportations. So formula is pretty simple. I am taking cost per mile for owning a car and multiply it by distance. So first I'm going to find out an optimal number of trips per year within a certain constraints. For example, I'm going to have no less than 7 snowboard trips per year, no less than 5 big shopping trips per year, no less than 24 trips of visiting friends, assuming that I visit friends twice a month at least, and all that should be within 10,000 miles distance. I'm going to run over and see what it will show to me. I will set up the amount of travel by 10,000 miles a year. After running solver, I see that the amount of offered trips for me is pretty nice. I'm going to visit friends 4 times a month, which is absolutely good, and I can fit all my travels within 10,000 miles distance a year, which is going to fit my budget. Now I'm going to run solver for each type of public or private transportation and optimize it for expenses. For example, for bus cost, I'm going to run solver and set those expenses to minimum. It gives me 1,671. I'm going to have a little bit less amount of travels. Same I'm going to do with Uber. Zipcar and 2 models of cars, and I see that for it optimized for this amount of distance, my expenses for traveling, and the lowest is traveling, of course, by bus. The most expensive ways of traveling is using Uber. Then Zipcar is pretty expensive, and owning a second-hand car actually makes some sense. Still, it's twice as more expensive as traveling by bus. Unfortunately, I have to say that owning a car in New York doesn't make any sense, and public transportation is much cheaper. Thank you for your attention.